I call this meeting of the Prosper Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Can we have Dina, would you say our prayer for us?
Yes, I will. Bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for each person here tonight, for everyone watching from home. We thank you for all those who worked tirelessly this past week through difficult weather and circumstances to allow us to have schools open today and for us to be here in person this evening. We thank you for our many blessings and our wonderful community of people that routinely help our neighbors and work together to overcome challenging situations. And we pray for those who are struggling this week continuously. We ask that you place upon each of our hearts a way we continue to help those in need. We pray for the health and safety of each family amidst these trying times and for a hedge of protection around our children. Lord, we also pray for our great country. We are thankful for both past presidents and for leaders that have influenced and propelled progression in our society. We pray for unity, wisdom, and discernment for our current leaders within every level of government and pray these things for our meeting this evening as well. May each decision made be within your will and in the best interest of the families and staff we serve. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now we're going to move into an open forum section. We have 3 people that have signed up for speaking. So I'm going to read this. We now move to the public comment session of our agenda. The board welcomes comments from citizens who have completed public comment cards this evening, which are accepted from 6:30 p.m. to 7, which I assume was 5:30 to 6, and are not transferable by other speakers. Please be advised that the information shared in public comment is not an endorsement of the information shared by the presenter and it solely provides the opinion of the individual speaker, not the district. 30 minutes been allotted for public comments, 3 minutes per speaker. So we will have a timer that when your 3 minutes are up, your time is up. Please keep all public comments related to school district governance and operations. If you have a specific concern related to an employee of the district or a specific student issue, you are encouraged to utilize the district's grievance procedures provided in board policies DGBA local, FNG local, and GF local. Each grievance procedure allows for an individual to redress grievances with the Board of Trustees. Additionally, if there are 5 or more individuals, which we don't, move on. Finally, remember that the board may not discuss or act upon any issues that are not properly posted on the agenda. Bill, will you keep the time for me?
I will.
Thanks. All right, our first speaker is Faith Wheeler. And if you'll let us know your address, and then you have your 3 minutes.
My name is Faith Wheeler, and I live on 416 Smokebrush Street. Mask should be an option, not required. Today I want to speak on behalf of the students in Prosper ISD. It is not fair that we have to wear masks because it makes somebody else feel better. Fine if it makes you feel better, that is for you to decide, but you are taking away other people's rights and smiles when you force other people to wear a mask. For all you know, when you tell somebody to wear a mask, they may feel unsafe and pressured in a way. I also want to bring to your attention that mask should be a decision that is made within the family and their needs, not somebody else's feelings. As a young student, I need to know my choices and decisions, and so does my family. But it is kind of hard to make decisions myself and be functional and helpful when they are made for me. Many students, including myself, agree that we should be able to make decisions on behalf of ourselves so we know how to properly take care of our own problems in our future life. Think of your family and their needs. You may want to wear masks because you have elders, but maybe you want your family to enjoy their smiles because you are at lower risk. Whatever works best for your family is what works best, but you need to be able to decide that, not other people who don't know your situation. I would like to give a special thanks to my 2 best friends who helped me write this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Faith. Now, Julie Kirkman.
This is in regards to masks at school.
Ever since I was in kindergarten, I have loved going to school. I've always enjoyed learning, talking with friends, and being part of a broader community. School is, for many people, including myself, a safe place to learn and interact with others while maturing. COVID took the last quarter of my 8th grade year. Stay-at-home orders forced families not to go out and changed the school experience for years to come. Nationwide studies have identified a clear gap between kids who learn at home and kids who learn in person. However, learning at school is not the same. Once where kids could interact face-to-face, we now have social distancing. Once where administrators could talk to kids in the cafeteria, we are now reminded not to sit on the blue tape. And once where kids had no problem with anything on our faces, we now wear masks. The purpose of the mask seems black and white. Everyone wears a mask and will prevent the spread of COVID-19, a deadly virus that endangers the lives of healthy kids in attendance at school. However, facts actually do matter in these situations, and it's high time we took a good look at them. To begin, COVID-19 is not deadly to kids. In fact, COVID-19 is largely not deadly to adults under 50. Look at the statistics. A healthy 40-year-old woman is not considered to be at risk for this virus. Secondly, for every bit of research that proves masks work, there is an equal credible bit of counter research that proves they don't. For example, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the American COVID expert, said back in March and April that no one should be expected to wear masks as they are ineffective. All across Europe, and as COVID has run through the continent, heavy masking has taken place. Masking hasn't stopped the spread there, and it won't either here. Masks have become people's safety net during these uncertain times, and I understand why. But forcing kids to wear them at school doesn't stop COVID from spreading at school, and only creates new barriers for learning. In addition, the COVID guidelines are vastly young and inconsistent anyways. If we are in a classroom, we are expected to keep our masks on at all costs in case we accidentally breathe our air in another classmate and they consequently acquire COVID. But in the cafeteria, COVID doesn't exist. I'm starting to think maybe these rules don't actually mean anything, and they're just being used to placate people with irrational fears. We keep living our life in fear of the virus that isn't even that deadly. We have an online option for those who are afraid. If someone is truly concerned about a virus, they can take that option, or let them wear a mask if they feel that it works. I have no problem encouraging people to do what they feel most comfortable with, but forcing students and teachers to wear masks without truly evaluating the facts of the situation just proves that school is no longer about learning. It's about forcing dangerous narrative upon our young minds. It's another way the school district can wield its power over the people outside of the obligations to educate the youth. It is transforming school from a place of learning to a place of obedience, and it must stop.
Thank you. And then we have Paige Chipinelli.
Hi, my name is Paige Chipinelli, and I go to Windsong Ranch Elementary School. I'm here to talk about why I do not like wearing masks at school. Wearing a mask prevents my normal breathing. Breathing keeps me alive. Everybody has the right to breathe fresh air, but Prosper has forced every kid and grown-up to prevent their natural breathing. Wearing a mask gives me a headache. When I have a mask headache, I feel really nauseous, and I feel like I'm going to throw up sometimes. But I can't even tell my teacher when I feel bad because I'll be sent to the nurse and they will send me home because they will think I have COVID when I'm perfectly healthy. Another reason I do not like wearing masks is because it makes my friends boss each other around about putting everyone's masks on. It makes people think they can control other people and makes them think they're the boss of others. I have seen more bullying about masks than anything else in my grade. I feel like I am not in control of my own life when I am forced to wear a mask at school. I'm constantly being yelled at for taking a drink of water from my water bottle during the day, sometimes by teachers and sometimes by my other kids. Taking a drink is good for my health, and people prevent me from being healthy when they yell at me to put my mask back on. Because I am forced to wear a mask all day at school, at my house I feel like I have to have one too, and that's not normal. Having to wear masks at school makes kids get used to something that's not natural. When you breathe without your mask, your lungs get rid of the bad toxins in your body, and you can breathe fresh air. But wearing a mask all day makes you rebreathe bacteria into your body instead, and that is not healthy for you. Wearing a mask to school every day makes me feel so sad. I have other friends who feel this way too. Honestly, I think what's the point in smiling while I'm at school? No one can see my face. I wonder when this is going to end. I hope it's really soon. Thank you for everybody who is trying to help make wearing masks a choice.
Thank you. And now Christine Chipinelli.
Yes. My name is Christine Chipinelli, and my address is public record. I am the proud mother of that amazing fifth grader that you just heard talk to you about the effect of your mandated mask rule on developing children. Are face masks even effective? A May 2020 study published by the US CDC found that face masks had no effect on virus transmission, not when worn by an infected person for source control, and not when worn by uninfected persons to reduce exposure. A Danish randomized controlled trial with 6,000 participants found no statistically significant effect of high-quality medical face masks against SARS-CoV-2 infection in a community setting. A February 2021 review by the European CDC found no significant evidence supporting the effectiveness of non-medical and medical face masks in the community. A July 2020 review by the Oxford Center of Evidence-Based Medicine found that there is no evidence for the effectiveness of cloth masks against virus infection or transmission. A May 2020 cross-country study by the University of East Anglia found that a mask requirement was of no benefit, and even suggested that face covering could increase risk of infection. An April 2020 review by 2 U.S. professors in respiratory and infectious disease from the University of Illinois concluded that face masks have no effect in everyday life, neither as self-protection or to protect third parties. An article in the New England Journal of Medicine in May 2020 came to the conclusion yet again that cloth face masks offer little to no protection in everyday life, and in fact said that the desire for widespread masking is basically a reflexive reaction to anxiety over the pandemic. An April 2020 Cochrane review found that there was no reduction of illness in mask wearers in the general population. A 2015 study in the British medical journal BMJ Open found that cloth masks were penetrated by 97% of particles, and due to moisture retention and repeated use may actually increase infection risk. Similarly, an August 2020 review by a German professor in virology, epidemiology, and hygiene found that there is no evidence for the effectiveness of cloth face masks and that the improper daily use of masks by the public could lead to an increase in infections. The mandatory masking of our children is not based on scientific fact. It is so disappointing to me and all the people standing here that funding has overshadowed what you were elected to this board to do, to have our children's well-being at the forefront of your decisions. Our kids are hurting. They're hurting academically, they're hurting socially, they're hurting emotionally, they're hurting mentally. All this hurting for something that isn't even effective? Your rules are hurting our kids.
Thank you, Christine.
Okay.
All right, let's move into the consent agenda, and we need a motion to approve 2 sets of minutes. One is a regular meeting from the 18th of January, and also the set of meetings from the 29th, which was the superintendent evaluation. If I can get a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Deborah.
The minutes.
I'll second.
Kelly, all in favor? Opposed? Great, thanks. Now, if we want to move into the enrollment.
Yes. So unfortunately, I had to provide you with a report that did not include last week because we had Snowmageddon that came through. Our current enrollment at this time is, on this report, was 19,537, and today we were 19,552, so up just a little bit. So we had some kids who joined us today or over the break. So I don't know that that was a break, actually. I shouldn't refer to it as that. Any questions about enrollment? We'll move into the construction update. Mr. De Velasco, are you? Thank you. reminder is Mike and Janie Reeves, which is located in Auburn Hills. So that was our late approval of that building, but it is on schedule to open in August.
Good.
So obviously a little more progress on that one. We're going internal, which is great because you can get more work done. I did want to mention, just for everyone's knowledge, Mike Reeves recently passed away, and so that will be a tough opening and ribbon cutting for that family. So certainly want to keep the family in our thoughts and prayers. And then we had a former board member, Ann Cassidy, who also passed away recently, and we certainly want to keep her family in our thoughts and prayers as well. Any questions about either of the facilities? I know, they do. So we've got a little purple flare, I guess y'all saw that on the Bryant Elementary, which will align with what we have at Windsong, and then also Rushing Middle School. So we'll have kind of a purple side of town over there. All right, Mr. Shirley is now going to present the Texas Academic Performance Report. Not a ton of data this year due to not really being able to test and have the end of the school year.
So good evening. I'm here to talk to you about the Texas Academic Performance Report as required by TEA. This is for the 2019-2020 school year. The Texas Academic Performance Report is also called the TAPER Report, so I'll often refer to it as the TAPER Report. And basically, that report includes STAR data. It's a wide range of data that they break down and desegregate by ethnicity, socioeconomic status. It also includes information about our staff, demographics, student demographics, and then what types of programs our kids are involved in. It comes in two forms. There's an online form that's really more detailed. They call it a dynamic form. And then there's also a PDF form. And tonight we'll be discussing that scaled back version of the PDF form. This information can be accessed through the TEA website, the dynamic form as well as the PDF. And then as required, it is also posted in the PDF form on the ISD website. And new this year for the TAPER report are in student information, the student identified indicators. They've added students that are in foster care, homeless, immigrant, migrant, Title I, military connected. And then with the students in instructional programs, they've added the program, the CTE, 9 through 12th grade. So the STAR reports really are the generator for our accountability. And because we didn't take STAR last year, we don't have an accountability rating as any school district in the state because of the declared state of disaster. The special education determination status is we meet standards or meet requirements, which is the highest standard that you can receive in that area. The other parts of the TAPER report that aren't really involved with the student performance piece is attendance And this is the most current data that we have. It's the 2018-19 school year. You can see there the light blue areas are the state, the region, and the district. And then it's broken down by demographics and special programs. The district fell out at 96.3% that year. And the smallest category there was the economic disadvantaged category at 95%, which was actually equal to the state and the region. The annual dropout rate for grades 7 through 8 was 0. We didn't have any dropouts that year in those grade levels. The 2019 dropout rate for grades 9 through 12, so it would be the entire high school. We had 99.9% of our students that didn't drop out that year. We did have 5 students that dropped out, much lower than the state or the region. I do want to clarify, though, when we're talking about kids dropping out, there's 3,607 kids during that school year, and 5 dropped out that our administrators, our counselors, Miss Winter at our DAEP campus, they track these kids down. They're actively seeking these kids out, and so while it only seems like 5, it's 5 of our kids, and they are pretty active in trying to get these kids back re-enrolled in school. We also have to track the 4-year longitudinal graduation rate, and this would be for the 2019 graduating class. That particular year, we had 681 students that fell into this category. 99% graduated. We had 3 students that continued on the next year as seniors again. We had 1 student that received his GED, and we had 2 dropouts. The 5-year extended graduation rate, which is the cohort of 2018, we had 652 students. 99.8% graduated. We had 1 student that dropped out. And then the 6-year plan was the 2017 cohort. We had 517 students. 99.4% of them graduated, and we had 3 dropouts. The SAT scores, as you probably all know, the SAT and ACT scores, most colleges aren't requiring those now. Some are optional. But in this particular school year, the class of 2019, you can see in the light blue is the state, the district, and then the district's the dark blue. Our students were averaged at 1154 on an SAT, and then the region was 1039, and the state was 1027. For ACT, the district averaged 23.9, and the state and region averaged 20.6. Our student demographics, as you can see there, our district is much different than what the state looks like. I don't think that's much a surprise to us. If you've been in Prosper for any extended time, you've noticed that our demographics are changing, and that's a good thing. But in a comparison, we're much different than what the state looks like. Our students that are in the identified indicators listed there, at the bottom of this list, you'll see the new indicators: the foster care, homelessness, the immigrant, migrant, the military connected. Just if you have questions about military connected, it's those that are dependents of active reserves or former military members, as well as Texas National Guard. I think the differences that stand out there are the economically disadvantaged. That's an obvious difference between the state, our English language learners, Title I, and our students at risk of not graduating. Those that are enrolled in specific programs, as a comparison as well, the ESL bilingual is quite different than the state. The new category, the career and technical education, grades 9 through 12 only. There is a difference there than the state average. For students to qualify or get credit for this percentage, they have to complete 2 or more courses and receive 3 or more credits in one of the pathways. That's how they would do that. And then our teacher demographics, again, much like our students, looks much different than what the state looks like. It has been a priority for our principals to diversify our hiring as much as possible. And I wanted to show you on this next slide how they've gone about that in literally just a year. So this was 2019-20. Currently, you can see there on the left that we are more diverse than we were a year ago. And then I've also included in here a pie chart that includes the demographics of the new hires for just this year, teachers. And so it is a priority. We do have some work to do, but our principals that hire all of our teachers are making that a priority. Teachers with years of experience, pretty well balanced. I would think in comparison to the state, what you're going to see in PISD are more teachers in that 6 to 20 year range than the state average. And then this is an interesting category. It's the student performance in post-secondary institutions. So we're asked to track students who have graduated the year after they have graduated and they have enrolled in a Texas public college or university, a 4-year or 2-year college. And what we have to do is average their GPA for the fall, the spring, and the summer. And so that's averaged, those GPAs. And we are to report those, and this is the report that we have with that data. So in the 2018 graduates, 654 graduates, roughly 55% of them enrolled in a Texas public university or college. The other students where it says they're not found or not trackable or independent, they very well could have enrolled in a private university, SMU, TCU, Baylor, or they could have gone out of state to University of Arkansas, Oklahoma State, those types of things. We don't have data on those. But for our 4-year university students, 88% of them fell in the 2.0 or higher range, 65% in the 3.0 or higher. And then our 2-year colleges, 69% of those fell in the 2.0 or higher, and roughly 40% in 3.0 or higher. The PEAMS Financial Standards Report, trust me, you don't want me to explain that to you. We just have to provide information of where you would find this. I think Ms. Fulmer does an excellent job of presenting to the board and keeping everybody up to date where we are, but we do typically fall out in that superior rating with PEAMS. The other thing that we're asked to report are violent or criminal incidents, and we do not have any reportable incidents to report in this presentation. And that is it, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shirley. I do want to mention that we will be going back through a very similar presentation within a year's time. We will be offering STAR for students that are in person. Virtual can come if they choose to, but they don't have to. And then A through F accountability will not happen this year. We've learned that from the state and the federal government. So thank you, Mr. Shirley. Appreciate it.
Some of the things on there, it was the 2-year college, like 25% of them had less than like a 2.0 GPA. Is that, I mean, to me, that's of concern. I don't know how you do anything to help them more prepared, but.
So that is of concern, which is part of why we've started the initiative of trying to push more dual credit into high school so that we have more support around the kids to see that GPA in a better situation if they're going on to 2-year. Because most of the kids that are falling in that College kind of 2-year dynamic, they've not taken a dual credit class in high school
Okay.
or an AP level course, so they've not felt that rigor.
Gotcha.
And then they get in and it's hard to be successful. So we want to make sure that they're having that experience as they're entering in and having those opportunities, and we're helping to guide them
Gotcha.
to better prepare them. Great question. All right, any other questions about TAPER? We do not need to take any official action on that, of course, for your information. The next thing that I have, we did a 2-year calendar last year, but we had just a little bit of an adaptation to what we had. And the only thing that changed is we pushed the February 18th date, became a professional learning date, which then gave us August 3rd for convocation that week when our teachers return. It just gave them an additional day that they're on contract. Did I miss anything, Mr. Shirley?
No, I believe that February date becomes a student staff holiday.
Okay.
Holiday.
And then we just add an additional day to convocation week to help the teachers prepare and plan for students.
Perfect. Okay, any questions? Very minimal, just wanted to make sure that you all were aware of those changes.
Any questions? If not, can I get a motion to approve that calendar for next year? Thank you, Bill. Second for Jana. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, so here we are. Missed school day waiver due to inclement weather. So as Mr. Shirley talked about, the TAPER report and it being considered a disaster emergency. So that is the same situation that we are in with last week's instructional time. I want to remind you that we took Thursday as a bad weather day because we had ice all across the district. We will use our banked instructional minutes for that day that we missed of instruction, so students do not need to make up that day of instruction. And then Friday and Monday, we were out. And so it was really Tuesday through Friday of last week. But what the state is saying is that we can submit a missed school day waiver. And if everything was truly a disaster, which we all know that it was not as big as a disaster as it could have been, but that we did endure that. And so we can put in that missed school day waiver and then not have to make days up, which will save us from our holiday in April. Because that Monday was the bad weather makeup day, and that was the only one that we had left. So this will allow us to bypass that completely with the approval from TEA.
Does anybody not want to ask for a waiver? I think your kids would like it. If not, can I get a motion to approve the waiver?
I'll make a motion.
Deborah, thank you. Jana, second. All in favor? Great, thanks.
Very good. We'll move on to the business section. And so Ms. Fulmer, I believe, has an investment financial report for us.
Good evening, thank you. It's hard to imagine we're already halfway through the school year as far as our budget. Now, our budget goes through August 31st, so we see some of those things. When I count, I divide by 12, although the calendar year is more like 10. So if we look at the investment portfolio here, we're going to see that this is a picture of all of our funds together. We currently have $262 million in the portfolio, which is a decrease from prior year. Again, that's because of prior bond proceeds. And the general fund, $176 million, which is 67% of the overall portfolio. Looking here at our benchmark performance through January 31st, we're at 0.11 of 1%. However, if you see the 30-day and the 1-year Treasury, they're flat. They're not falling anymore. So maybe we've reached the floor. I don't know, but that would be a really great thing for us. If we look at this chart shows the distribution in the financial institutions. I want to point your eye to the very bottom on the right. There's an arrow there. We have a new type of investment that we're dealing with on the chart. This is Texas Term Investment Pool. So it's an investment pool, but it's a fixed product. So they can invest in a little bit longer term securities, and you just get a little bit more interest on that. So this is locked in there for 6 months only through July 26th. And we placed $5 million. So you can see the normal Texas Term Pool was earning a 0.07 through January. This will get us a 0.15. These are not large numbers, but every little bit helps. And so that's a really great way that we can get a little bit more yield without taking any more risk. Investment comparison by funds. This is the general fund only, 176 compared to $163 million this time last year. So an 8% increase in the cash balance that we have year to date. And this just shows a side-by-side comparison of all of our bond groups from last year to current year. Okay, we're going to go into the general ledger portion of it, looking at revenues by source for the general operating fund only. Currently, we've taken in $135 million compared to $120 million last year at this time. The budgeted revenue, $178 million, $135 collected, so that's 75, almost 76% completed year to date. A little bit behind where we were last year, but again, we're still dealing with the pie chart where the state share is a little bit more, and they don't pay us at the same rate that the tax collections would come in. So that's exactly what we would expect. If we look at the tax collections overall, I was still very interested to see what January would look like, and that line is tracking right on top of prior year, which is tax rate compression. We have the current year original levy percent collected is 66.45% compared to 68% prior year. And if we look at the ag rollback, all of the big numbers here are not current year. Current year is just the yellow line, and it's really zero for this year. The ag rollback is something that we can't really predict when it's going to come, and we don't budget for it, but the sales of the ag land that we had around here, as you can see, it's just slowing down. A lot of the properties have already changed hands, is why this has changed. This is decreasing. So we look at expenditures. This is the general fund only. So for current year, spending $83 million compared to $69 million prior year, 19% increase, which is tracking as you would expect for the overall budget. And looking at this by major object, percent complete for the year is 43.2%, which is just slightly behind this time last year. We have a year-to-date budget to actual comparison for the athletics fund. Cash flow for the year, $116,000 compared to $253,000 prior year. So that's as we would expect for the athletics, as we had to modify for COVID this season. Looking at the food service fund, I was very happy to see we are in the black for the moment. We're not guaranteeing that we will be that way through August, but right now this is a very strong performance, and I was very heartened to see this. Debt service fund, year-to-date cash flow, $47 million. Our debt service payment occurred on February the 15th, and gratefully, Michelle Cease and her team wired out the debt payments before they were due. And so on the 10th, to make sure that nothing happened because of weather, so the debt service payments were timely. Looking at elementary school 13, Reeves Elementary School, we saw the performance of the construction progress. This is the part that trails, as we know. Total expenses so far, 32.5% of the overall program. And for the POE contract, we've actually spent $8 million through January 31st. And Bryant, which is a lot farther ahead in its construction, total expenditure is 62.8%. Expenditures for the POE contract are $14.4 million. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Fulmer?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Fulmer.
Can I get a motion to approve the investment financial report?
Make a motion.
Thank you, Bill.
I'll second.
Kelly, thank you. All in favor? Great, thanks.
So next up we have budget amendments, and this is actually coming from the technology that you approved back in November, which was $10 million, and then the purchase of the Mayhard property that we actually signed on today for the 2.2 when you all gave approval back in January. So we did have to make some amendments. Anything you want to add, Ms. Fulmer?
So again, this is just moving it between funds.
Yes, this way when we look at the fund balance in the general operating at the end of year on the audit, we won't have to worry about has the 10 million been pulled out, did we only spend 3, these kinds of things. So this, our auditor likes to see these very clean. General fund then is very clean, and the fund 670, if any of these projects for the 10 million might be multi-year, then you'll always have that balance out of the general fund, so you won't have to worry about that crossing over. And again, the Mayhart property, that closing occurred today, so then this will just help that accounting record.
Great. Any questions? All right, if we can get an approval of that budget amendment, I would appreciate it. Thanks, Jana. Deborah, second. All in favor?
All right, I'm going to have Dr. Bradley come up. We have the zoning that you all were able to view last month, and this will impact Bryant and then Reeves Elementary. So wanted him to be able to review the numbers. He was working with our demographer today just to really kind of nail down those finer details.
So one of the crazy things about this last year is that with historically low interest rates and with public schools across the country not opening like we have here in Prosper, we've seen an acceleration of growth, and we hear it every week from our principals of families moving in and saying, we sold our house in Illinois and just came to Texas because we were tired of our kids not being able to go to school. And so we've heard that story repeatedly, and so for the first time ever, or at least the first time since I've been here, the demographer updated the numbers from third quarter to fourth quarter. So the growth is accelerating, which is a little daunting considering that we've already been the fastest growing district in the state of Texas, and now the growth in the midst of a pandemic has not slowed, it's actually gone up. The only thing that seems to be holding it back is they can't physically build houses faster. And so these numbers actually got adjusted a little bit today, but it leads us to probably the least fun thing we do is rezoning kids to different schools. It's never fun. It's not what we want to do, but we just have to with the amount of growth. We obviously can't have 1,500 kids in an elementary, and so we're to that point. And so just the good thing about these two elementaries is I think the map makes a little bit of sense. I'll start over on the east side of the district with Baker and our new elementary in Auburn Hills, Reeves Elementary. I think this one made the most sense. What we're able to do with this zoning is this gets Baker to its terminal zone. So it's essentially built out. There's a little bit of land up there on the northern part of the Baker zone where additional housing could go. But this is going to get the enrollment of Baker down in the low 600s. So we think over the next couple of years that it will get to build out. We can keep this zone the same. And so Baker is basically at the point we like our elementaries to get to where you can feel pretty confident that as the future goes on, that will be Baker's zone. And this new elementary, Reeves Elementary, will take the southern part there in Auburn Hills. Auburn Hills has a piece of that section that's actually in McKinney ISD, but 95% of it is in Prosper ISD. And then Tucker Hill, those are the two major components of Auburn Hills at this point. Auburn Hills or Reeves Elementary is going to open fairly small, around 500 kids probably just in attendance there from that attendance zone, not related to special programs or anything that we may put over there. But we think this zone will hold for quite a few years. Now, obviously, development is going to start happening along Prosper Trail there to the east of Coy and or Custer. So there will come a day where we'll have to rezone that, but we really feel like these two zones will make the most sense. We can hold them for several years, so kids that are being rezoned here shouldn't be bumped for a long time. And so we feel really confident about those. On the west side of the district is our most challenging zoning situation, just because I would remind you that 5 years ago we had 0 elementaries west of the tollway, and this will be our third. And you will see on the map that we put Star Trail, which will be elementary number 15. And so Star Trail will be is planned to open in August of 22. And so the reason this zoning looks a little funny right now, because it looks like that vast region over there that's kind of that purple color doesn't have a lot of kids in it. But what's going to happen there is they're going to take parts of the northern part of Windsong, that's east of Windsong Parkway. Those houses are being built right now. I don't know that there's actually anyone inhabiting a home in that area. There may be 1 or 2, but there can't be more than 2 or 3. It will take that part, which is where the elementary is going to be built, and then this northwest corner of Artesia, which does split Artesia between Stuber and Elementary 14 or Bryant Elementary. But these kids some of them are 50 yards away from this school. I mean, literally, they're just going to cross the street and be right there. And this is the best way to hold them without having to bump them multiple times. And so again, as we look at the zoning, we're thinking not only this year, but we don't want to have to bump these kids the next year or the next year. So a large portion of the attendance in year one for Bryant Elementary is going to be Sutton Fields, which you know is up in that very northwest corner there off 1385. It is our fastest growing subdivision now. There were, I think, less than 15 homes with kids in it 3 years ago, and now there's something like 325 homes on the ground, and there will be close to 1,000 that build out. And so they are going quite quickly over there. And so a large portion of the attendance will be made up there. What this does is it gets Windsong basically to its terminal zone. Now, I shudder to say that on the west side of the district because it's just grown so fast. But it gets Windsong to what we think will be its terminal zone, so it shouldn't have to change much after this. Stuber is still going to be really large next year. It's going to have well over 900 kids, which is not fun, that we're opening an elementary less than 2 miles from it, and it's still going to have 950 kids in. But the reason is that, again, in August of 22, Star Trail Elementary will open, and it will relieve a lot of students, all those students that live in Star Trail that go to Stuber, at that point will have a neighborhood elementary. And so it will pull a ton of those students right there. So that's why the decisions were made. It's never fun drawing the lines and trying to figure out, but we recommend this to you tonight as our best effort to try to minimize the movement of kids both this year and years into the future.
When you mentioned not having to move kids for several years, what does several mean? Is that like, hopefully?
2.
Yeah, that's
We're
right.
looking for 2.
I hope it means 4 and it always means 2.5 or something. I mean, what we don't want to do is bounce a kid twice in 2 years, right? That's the one thing we've always said. We don't ever want to make a kid move 2 elementaries in 2 years. And so that's why on the west side of the district, any other way we drew it was going to have kids getting bumped to 14 and then to Star Trail or to Stuber and then and this was about the only way we could draw it where we say, hey, this minimizes these kids that are leaving Stuber are going to get to go to Bryant Elementary and they're going to get to stay there for a couple of years. I think we're going, what we can't know right now obviously is we need elementary 16, 17, and 18 very quickly, and there's a lot of places that we need it. Sutton Fields needs elementary 16, 17, or 18. Liliana needs elementary 16, 17, or 18. South of 380 needs elementary 16, 17, or 18. And so there's just challenges all across the district that continue to happen with growing 2,500 students every 12 months. So it's a long answer to say, I hope 3.
One of the
sometimes
things
2.
we're trying to be sensitive to, Ms. Thompson, and I know from your previous work in the district, if we think about it, these kiddos, there are a certain group of kids that they were at Windsong, then they got moved to Stuber, and now they're going to get moved to Bryant, and that would be 3 hops for them. And so we've already taken into account, like, how many 5th graders would we be looking at potentially that would be the group that would have experienced 3 moves with this zoning. And so we've narrowed down, I think it's about 35 students, but then those 35 students then come with siblings sometimes, many times. So then you have to take that into consideration too. And then, so we've been working on looking at that with the transfer policy, like how would we handle that in the event of, what you'll find though, as we know with a new school, sometimes people are so excited about the energy and the excitement that comes with that. And then some are like, I do not want to move again. So we're ready and really brief for both of those scenarios and discussions to come into play, especially with that group that over there in the Artesia area. We don't think we'll have as much from the Sutton Fields. I think that they probably are like, okay, we'll probably be going to the new school, and then that group there at the Summit, which is the subdivision that the school sits in. But the Artesia group, that might be a little bit more of a conversation because they are the potential 3-time move.
The last point to note is just that I wanted to mention tonight is, as unfun as zoning has been for the last couple of years, you see that the map is getting chopped up even more. And so to this point, we have been able most times to move entire subdivisions. Hey, this whole subdivision is going to go here, or this whole neighborhood is going to go here. Those days are rapidly coming to an end, and it makes it less fun because in the next 2 years, I'm going to be coming to you and saying, this street has to be the dividing line. And it's frustrating because you're going to end up in situations where kids live on this side of the street looking at kids across the street, and there's just not many other ways to do it. As we continue to divide up the map and we get to 20 elementaries, it's getting less fun. But that's just the nature of the beast when we continue to having to add again. We're talking about adding close to 1,500 elementary students, and so that's two elementaries worth of kids that we have to add in the next 12 months.
Any other questions on the zoning for the 2 new elementaries? Any comments?
They need to quit building.
Okay.
Ms. Thompson,
Good luck.
I hate to break it to you, but
I already know, just saying.
That is an action item, so if I can get a motion to approve the intended zone. Deborah, thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kelly. All in favor? Thank you.
thank you. Okay, so we have a resolution that I needed to bring to you, and so what we're finding and continuing to find is damages, and so obviously those can become very costly, and so we need a resolution that would help us to be able to do those procurements for that. A 90-day period is what we have in place. If we have to extend beyond that, that would take us to about May, then we would come back and ask for an extension on that resolution, but just so that we have some flexibility to be able to make those decisions without having to wait for a month to be able to get repairs and different things in place that need to happen at our facilities. And again, we are extremely, extremely fortunate, and I cannot say enough great things about Dr. Bradley and our maintenance team and the way that they were just around the clock working, making sure that they were securing our facilities. But there was still damage, even with all of that due diligence and work that they were putting in, and certainly applaud the efforts of that group and Mr. Dave Velasco, Ms. Croy. Payroll still has to happen even though it snows, right? And technology still has to work so payroll can do what they need to. So there's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes that we don't always recognize or think about because we just think about the school. So I certainly want to say thank you to them publicly. And Dr. Bradley, again, every single time I was there, walking up, he was already there and he was slugging and moving stuff, trying to make sure our buildings were taken care of. So certainly so we can get in there and get things fixed and get our buildings back in working order, I would ask for your approval on this resolution for the next 90 days.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Jana.
Second.
Bill, second. All in favor? Motion passes.
Thank you. And you have a copy of the resolution in your packet. So that takes us to executive session.
If we need to make any action items, we will come back into regular session and make those, so you're more than welcome to stay around or watch online. At this point, can I get a motion to move to executive session? Thank you, Bill. Okay, a second. Thank you, Kelly. All in favor? Thank you very much. All right, do I need to call the meeting back to order to conduct 4 additional items? Number 1, I need approval for the professional contracts for our new hires. If I can get a motion for that.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Kelly.
I'll second.
Bill, second. All in favor? Thank you. Approval of our resignations. Thank you, Deborah. Can I get a second? Thank you, Jana. All in favor? And then we need to have action on the contract for our superintendent, Dr. Holly Ferguson. Can I get approval of that? Thank you, Jana.
I'll second.
Deborah, second. All in favor? And then approval for the resolution on inclement weather to pay our hourly workers.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Kelly. Bill?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor? Very good. Any other business?
Nope, adjourn.
Can I get a motion for adjournment? Thank you, Jana. Deborah, second. All in favor? We are adjourned.
All right, very good. Thank you. Excellent.